And WNS stands for?
Rufus.
Rufus. We Googled it to try to figure that out. Mike Tanier, one of our defending champions and friends who joins us often. He's from Jersey. I don't hold that against him because of the Springsteen thing. Hangs around with the Philadelphia Eagles from time to time. And, of course, out on Bleacher Report, where you are a run-and-gun gangster, correct?
I am, and I am not Rufus.
Yeah, no, not Rufus. That's all right. No roofies here.
We might need roofies by the end of the
Darren
week.
Sharper out of this conversation. So, Super Bowl, you guys are here for Bleacher Report, and you're going to be talking about this all week. And more than a lot of places or a lot of sites and the work you've done is real tactical on the football side. From a tactical standpoint, this is a fascinating matchup of offenses and defenses, right?
It is, because you have two very multi-variant offenses here. Some teams that can beat you a lot of ways. You're not looking at that one-dimensional downfield passing attack or something like that. You have the Falcons, I think everybody knows, is an incredible amount of balance. And then, whenever you look at the Patriots, you say, oh, well, it's Tom Brady and whatever. Well, this year it's just Tom Brady and so many different morphing weapons that he will throw at you. You saw Chris Hogan go out there in the championship game after not seeing a lot of him.
Yeah, we saw a little of him in Foxborough back in December, too. Yeah. So did Eric Weddle and Matt Elam, too. So.
Right, and then you see this running game that they have right now, and it's no one star, but it's three guys, and they run the ball very well. You do that, and then you factor in the defenses. You have a classic Belichick defense, where it's kind of a no-name defense with 25 different guys out there, versus this millennial group that the Falcons have that I think people underestimate and take for granted, but it's a bunch of 21, 22, 23-year-olds who every time you look at them look a little bit better.
Well, they're the Falcons. I mean, it's very, very hard. I mean, I remember 2-3 weeks ago I had some guests on the week of the divisional games, and everybody's like, oh, Green Bay, Dallas, Green Bay. And I'm like, Atlanta's been off a week. What, do they chop liver?
They have been the quietest all-time kind of great offense that we've ever seen. I mean, they're
the Minnesota '98 team and the Rams and the Greatest Show. I mean,
they've been that good, and no one's talked about it really.
What happens is, Dallas has two rookie superstars, and then every time Dak throws an interception or an incomplete pass, everybody screams Roma. So they attract all this attention. Aaron Rodgers goes completely from what's wrong with Aaron Rodgers, where I swear in October people were ready to bench him and fire him and everything else like that.
Oh yeah,
to this
McCarthy was gone.
Yeah, McCarthy was gone. Right. I was writing stuff about it to this tear. So these guys occupy great national fan bases to occupy everybody's attention, and the Falcons start winning games like 45-14 and 45.
Right.
I mean, if you look at the scores, it was like that. But it was the 49ers and it was the Rams. Yeah, but they blew the daylights out of these teams, and they blew the daylights out of the Broncos when everybody was kind of asleep on that. So yeah, it was under the radar. Now here they are at the Super Bowl. It's kind of like they're still an under the radar team, and because what a lot of people are talking about right now. It's like, well, when Brady wins, what's Roger Goodell going to do?
Exactly.
Like, there's another team playing in this game,
Well, and I guess the Falcons won't be taken. If you slay the giant here, it is what it is. You go out and lose the way they did 17 years ago. And I mean, it's funny. This is the kind of week where your association to the Falcons is that Chris Chandler, Dirty Birds team. That kind
Jamal Anderson.
I mean, got by and beat Brian Billick barely, right? I mean, a game they were down 10 points.
Gary Anderson's missed field goal.
Yes.
Perfect season ruined.
And when I think of the best Falcons team was probably the team from 4 years ago that would have been the opponent of the Ravens in New Orleans. They had that game won as well. So no one associates confetti and the Falcons, but Matt Ryan has all along been a guy, Philadelphia guy after your own heart, who I think we all thought he's good enough to win a Super Bowl. Now, will he? Right? Will he?
And of course, you have to go up against this buzzsaw where it's like, oh, you're good enough to win a Super Bowl. Here's Tom Brady. And Tom Brady's still playing at a high level, so what are you going to do? He's got all the attributes that you could possibly ask for a Super Bowl caliber quarterback right now, Matt Ryan does. He's a veteran. He has playoff experience before this, as you talked about, that he played at a high level. Obviously has the weapons. Obviously has taken a step in his development. I think people don't realize that quarterbacks in their early 30s, one of two things normally happens to them. They either drop off suddenly and they get old quickly.
Like Matt Schaub.
Schaub,
who might play on Sunday, by the way. He's got a better chance of playing than you and me.
Or Jacoby Brissett, yeah. But they either do that or they take another developmental step. Like Carson Palmer will be an example of somebody who did that. And I think Ryan clearly did that this year, and that puts him in another level. Now, again, there's being in another level, and then there's being here against – this isn't a year where you get some other quarterback. You get Tom Brady, and that's what you have to deal with.
Well, I think when you are Matt Ryan and you're in the tournament and – all this heat's on the Cowboys and their running game and the O-line. And then there's Aaron Rodgers over there. And then there's the kid out in Seattle that probably should have had 2 Super Bowls, right?
Yes.
Or at least at this point, right? It's hard to measure up to that when you don't win. Look, Flacco won a Super Bowl and played in, 4 AFC championship games?
Three.
Three, right. was Pittsburgh? The other New England loss was a divisional.
That was divisional.
And the other
Okay.
Pittsburgh loss.
Yeah.
But, I mean, has been a tested road playoff Super Bowl MVP quarterback. And if he were in against Tom Brady, it's, well, there's Tom Brady and then there's the other guy. You know?
Exactly.
I mean, it's kind of like Eli Manning. Well, he's not Peyton. Well, one more than Peyton did, until last year, right? So I think with Matt Ryan, you go back to Roddy White. You talk about Gonzalez. You talk about the high-powered offense. The defense is what got Mike Smith fired.
Yes.
It's what got Dan Quinn hired.
Yes.
And it's the only thing that can allow them to win on Sunday, right?
That's about
we
it.
talk about Matt Ryan all day long, but if the defense can't stop Tom Brady, they're not going to win.
If they go out there and look like a bunch of 21 to 23-year-olds who are kind of in awe of the entire situation, who are still developing, then they're not going to win that ball game. If they look like a defense that has arrived and come of age, and I think Dan Quinn has something to do with that. When you evaluate coaches, you say, well, don't look at the talent that was already there or that you already knew about what has developed. And you've seen this development of these defensive players. The question is, have they developed to the point where they can go out there and defeat Tom Brady in these circumstances?
And this is big for all of them.
Yes. This is.
I mean, Belichick knows his way here.
Yes.
The Patriots know how to get here. Tom Brady, at least there's a guy there holding their hand.
Yeah.
I don't know who the Falcons look to when they get down here and the beer starts flowing and the parties start going and the media comes out.
Yep.
And
It's Freeney, I guess.
And everybody wants to feel loose and be loose and play loose and all that. That's a tough thing to do when you're young and you don't have that kind of. I mean, the Ravens had Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Quan Bowl. Matt Burke. They had veteran guys around. I don't know. The Falcons, you talk about Dwight Freeney. We talk about Chris Chester being a former Raven and, what former Ravens are around and what former, what.
Courtney Upshaw.
Courtney Upshaw and Wade Harmon, a couple Super Bowls.
Tight ends
two
coach,
different. But on the field, the Falcons are very, very green. It's hard to look at the Falcons this week and think they're going to win, right?
Yeah,
we're all here trying to beat the Patriots. But
yeah, right. I keep looking at it and saying that's next year's championship defense. That's next year's championship defense. When Trufant, the cornerback, comes back and he's healthy because he was hurt. When Jones, at middle linebacker, takes that next step up from being a Rookie of the Year candidate to being a true Pro Bowl, et cetera, et cetera. That's what it looks like right now. They're trying to win this year's Super Bowl with next year's defense, which is a tricky proposition.
Yeah, but especially because we know how many teams get to a Super Bowl, don't win, and then you assume they're going to be back, and that doesn't happen.
Yes, and I look at this organization. Well, this organization can keep it together, and all this youth and all. You say that about the Panthers. You can say that for teams going back for years. This can break an organization. Yeah, but what I go back to sometimes is what I heard from the young players on the Broncos. I guess it was 3 years ago when they lost to the Seahawks. Then they did come back, and they
got embarrassed this year. I mean,
they got embarrassed.
Yeah.
But then they came back last year, and it's like, okay, we know the environment better, we know ourselves better, we know these things, and they came back as a much more mature group. Remember,
but that was also a different group, though. I mean, that 2013 Broncos team, not that they had a terrible defense by any means, but that was an offense-driven team.
Yes.
Peyton Manning's still playing at a high level, whereas last year we know that was all about defense. So they even went through a lot of change, not just having that experience.
That's true.
Coaching and everything.
So calm.
It's Marcus Allen.
Like, who the hell is this?
Well, Marcus, it's a thing about coming up from behind me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Anybody's coming up from behind me, not often a Hall of Fame. He got me off my game. I'm all.
Get the energy back up.
We'll get him some coffee.
Yeah, Marcus is giving me a hard time about energy. He thinks I'm not energetic enough.
I thought he was hawking an energy drink, but that looked like he had a different sponsor on him right there.
No,
he's going to come back with a Monster beverage or something.
No, I knew I was getting attacked. Yeah, you said the two words that have fascinated us today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Mike Tanier, by the way, joining us here from Bleach Report. You can follow him at Mike Tanier on Twitter as well as at Bleach Report. Pro Bowl. You just said something about Pro Bowl in the pros. You were saying
he doesn't want to talk about the Pro Bowl.
That's when the energy. That's when Marcus Allen came. I got to bring the room up. They're talking about the Pro Bowl.
Look at the time. It is fascinating they still play it, right? I mean, like we were watching it again last night. We've talked about it. Everybody wants to be a Pro Bowler, and I guess for Weddle to go down with his kids, and Kyle Juszczyk and those guys. I mean, Jeremy Zuta was out there. There was a point in the game, third quarter, Luke and I are together, and we're trying to make heads or tails of these red and blue. And Jeremy Zuta and DeCastro are protecting, or not protecting in this case, Andy Dalton.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, if you're Marvin and you lost Tyler Eifert last year, how do you feel about Andy Dalton running around with a Steeler and a Raven offensive lineman who clearly don't give a care about your ACL? You know what I mean? It really does make for strange bedfellows.
It does. But luckily, the guys don't necessarily think like that. And the defensive players aren't looking to crush any ACLs.
Right.
They want to go out and look good and hug the quarterback.
Jimmy Graham got annihilated at the 2-minute warning when it became very clear. Luke was Googling how much money the winners and losers were going to make.
61,000 for the winners, 30,000 for the losers.
And when you get down to Kyle Juszczyk and those guys, that becomes
was a $61,000 hit at the Buffalo safety. I don't know who the hell it was. It was a Buffalo linebacker or safety.
Was it Alexander?
Alexander,
He laid out.
There's an example of a guy who's been in the league for a few years but doesn't make an incredible amount of money. That couple $1,000.
Sure.
But I get that it's a wonderful thing. I think Orlando is a good place for it because the guys can bring their kids. And that's
Disney World,
I want an incentive for these guys to be out there, whatever it is, whether Phil Rivers wants to bring the kids or whether the young dude's like, I'll go to Disney World because I'm still a young dude. That's great, too. But you can't not have an all-star game, so you're kind of stuck with what you got.
You sound like Mr. Goodell. I mean,
it's
kind of like the scene in Back to School. Do you know how much money we make on the Pro Bowl? I mean, are you aware of this honorarium? And
right.
I mean, the only reason to play, it's the money at this point. It has nothing to do with the football. That's for sure.
The television ratings, you can compare them to all these other things, and it's competitive TV ratings. They can sell sponsorships.
It has an NFL logo on it.
As an NFL logo, everyone who went out there volunteered to do it, and so that's great. And we all, I mean, your experience is probably like mine. You're sitting at the hotel bar because you just got in for the Super Bowl. We're all sitting there watching it. I'm guessing a lot of fans are lying around waiting for The Walking Dead to start, flicking channels.
This is the first time I had it with the sound up. Usually, I mean, in the old days, we brought, a crew to the Super Bowl. We would be sitting somewhere eating a pizza, drinking beer, having a steak, whatever, and just, watching it on television. This is like we watched, and it was actually... It wasn't as horrible as I remember it being when they turned it into a pinball game.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders is running around and all that kind of stuff. But,
right.
I don't think there's any way to dress that pig up, Mike Tanya.
With the exception of the NBA All-Star team, All-Star game, which of them are really watchable? I mean, do you really love the baseball All-Star game? I guess if you're a baseball fan,
it counts for home
I do
field
love
advantage.
that one because it actually feels like the real game, other than pitchers only pitching an inning or two.
Right. But
it's not
it's hard.
baseball.
It's hard to replicate. It's hard to play football at 50%.
That's
Baseball,
exactly it.
You can do
you
that.
Can play it at 50%.
It still looks still representative.
And basketball can look like a dunk competition.
Sure.
Like, it's a dunk competition.
Sure.
Or they're trash talking. Okay, yeah.
Mike, I want to get back to something you said a few minutes ago because it really struck me as interesting. You were talking about Matt Ryan, talking about quarterbacks as they enter their early 30s. Joe Flacco recently turned 32 years old. Where are you, as someone who doesn't watch him every week, but clearly you study the game, you watch it closely, where are you with someone like him? In Baltimore, we've talked about it. We know about the offensive coordinators. We know the running game the last couple of years hasn't been very good. It's relied on a 37-year-old Steve Smith.
Yes.
So all the factors around him are not perfect. They're not. They're far from perfect.
Right.
But where are you with him in that same context of, you just said it, quarterbacks hit their early 30s, and unless you're a guy like Tom Brady who's been great really from day one, it's kind of the crossroads time. You either reinvent yourself or get a little bit better, maybe have a renaissance, or it can go in the other direction very, very badly, very quickly.
He does not have a great ideal skill set for being a guy who goes into his late 30s. The lack of mobility is an issue because it's like, he was never a scramble, but you go from this level of kind of immobile to even less mobile.
Sure.
And the sort
to
of
a statue.
With an ACL injury in his history.
Like the Drew Bledsoe effect, where you suddenly you're just back there and you're
Or as DeMarco Farr once called Scott Mitchell, a water buffalo.
And then another factor you get is sort of that creativity element of things, because that's where like the Phillip Rivers, even though he's been a statue for his entire life, is so incredibly creative and like, I want to throw a check down to the guy that you can't even see over here. Joe doesn't do a lot of that. He's a little bit better in a scripted environment, things like that. So those are two strikes against him as he gets into the 30s right now. You don't want to shovel dirt on anything now, but these are things that he and the Ravens have to look at as they move forward a little bit to say, it's been now 4 years since the Super Bowl year. It's been an ACL injury. You got to be a little bit aware of the possibility that late in this contract, the diminishing returns are going to get high.
Well, part of that's the offensive line too. I mean, we got Brady here at 39, and you had Manning here last year at 30. Part of that is those dudes never got hit. Those dudes always got rid of the football. Yes. And I saw Brady do something in the championship game that I saw Manning doing, which was the most unmanly, unmasculine thing you could do as a quarterback, which is turtle up. When somebody's got a free run on you, just fall down.
Right, have some sense.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
and I saw Brady doing that 2 weeks ago. Roethlisberger even a little bit less likely to scramble one extra play on second down, dart the ball, get rid of it, live another day.
Right.
I think once you've had those injuries, that's also a factor, and this is where Ronnie Stanley comes in and Alex Lewis comes in, and maybe Marshall Yonda the next 2 or 3 years come into seeing some sort of offense where you're never putting your quarterback in a direct line of getting annihilated. I mean, you never see Brady get blown up. You didn't see Manning get blown up after he was 30 in Indianapolis.
There's a degree to which the coaches are responsible for that, for putting that kind of system in, and the quarterback's responsible for protecting himself and protecting his linemen as much as they are protecting
And he
him.
also has to have somebody to throw the ball to.
And he's got to have somebody throw the ball to. And your receiving cores in recent years have not been particularly strong. I think that's been a factor as well. But when you talk about that quarterback getting hit thing, a lot of that is that quickness and that quick decision-making to be able to get rid of that ball quickly, and also to have an offense to make sure that outlet is there. And I don't always see those things in place for Flacco and for the Ravens. And those are things I think Morningweg's going to have to address with him as they go into this season. Where is that check down? Where is that hot read? Where are those quick decision situations? And can you hit them?
And you also might want to run the ball more than 20% of the time.
It's been weird that you've gone from coordinator to coordinator who want to run the ball and you don't run the ball. And then there have been running backs rolling through who have been effective running backs and rotations of running backs who I thought were pretty good ball players, and yet you don't run the ball. It's been like 3 coordinators in a row here where it's just been...
And that's in the last 2 months. Mike Tan, you're here from Bleacher Report. You can follow his journey out on Twitter as well. So the weirdest thing that happened Sunday night wasn't the Pro Bowl and the red and blue uniforms or even the Royal Rumble. The weirdest thing is I came into the hotel room, I've talked to my wife, and Luke says to me, the 49ers hired John Lynch. And I'm like,
what?
Well, great broadcaster. And I'm thinking.
Safety. He's
coach.
coming back. He's coming back.
Yeah. What? 6-year deal? It was, think about how we laughed, what was it, 6 years ago here at the Super Bowl when they gave Jim Harbaugh more money than anyone but Sean Payton, right, in the league at the time, right? Like, the Jim Harbaugh contract was 5 years, 25. It was I know how crazy Billick got. Billick's like, dude's never coached a game in the league, and he just made him the highest paid coach in the NFL.
Right.
And this is the York family. And as much as that kid says, you can't fire the owner and stuff like, I'm not anti-John Lynch, but I was talking to Luke at length about Malcolm Gladwell last night and the 10,000-hour rule of life. You know what I mean? The reason I'm decent at doing this radio thing is I've done 10,000 hours of this. I've been doing it. I don't know how you go in that seat and overlook the McDonoughs of the world, all these people that have been doing this for 20 years. John, you want to be a general manager? Go do what Ozzie did. Go run quality control for a year. Go take the secondary for a year or two. And then maybe we'll, you want to scout? Go out to the combine. Why aren't you at the Senior Bowl?
We'll put you in player personnel.
A good example of that is what Brian Dawkins has been doing for the Eagles, where he's been working through various levels. He was down at the Senior Bowl this week, and we saw him. He was kind of down there working with the scouts, and sort of a combination. Because of his name factor, he has like this sort of public relations role while he's also learning these other roles where he's clearly getting groomed to be somebody in the John Elway seat or things like that as a couple of years pass. And that's a way that you can do it, and that's not the way they're doing it there. And again, we still don't sound like we're anti.
Well, Elway didn't do it that way, did he?
No, but here's the
Elway had what? The arena team that he kind of sort of
owned. Yeah, Elway ran a car dealership, too.
But he didn't, he wasn't a guy who, and he stepped in and
he
worked out pretty well.
Grunt work,
Also came in to a team that was usually a 9, 10, 11 win with an infrastructure
in place.
All the infrastructure's in place. So if things have to run on rails a little bit while you're learning and all the things.
And he knew people there.
Yes.
I mean, in San Francisco, I don't even know if John Lynch knows where the building is. Literally, right?
I don't know where the building is. And you're coming into a 2-14 situation. You have to be a complete empire builder from the ground up type of thing.
Every decision has to be a good decision.
Every decision
at that point.
Yes, and you have to sweat the small stuff about the 5th round pick and about the low-level free agent and the salary cap 2 years down the road and all these other things that aren't established right now because there's no infrastructure in place.
Well, at least they have a quarter.
No.
Hey, I don't. What do they have? But it's from a tactical standpoint when you talk about these franchises that suck perennially, and it really is miraculous because maybe the York family was born on third base and thought he hit a triple when they got to the Super, because they were in the Super Bowl 4 years ago. Like, we sit here and talk about the 49ers as like they're dregs and they've always been dregs. No, they weren't for the 10 minutes that Jim Harbaugh was there.
But the demise of that franchise it's almost unthinkable. Think back to 4 years ago. Everyone knew that the Ravens, at least with Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Matt Burke,
and getting older,
you knew that the Ravens were at least going to be going through a transition, and they knew they were going to be paying their quarterback at that point.
Right.
And everyone would have looked at the 49ers at that point in time and said, well, these guys should be back. These guys should have a window of 4 or 5 years.
And they almost got there the year before, other than the two muffed kickoffs, right?
And the year after, they got back to the championship game. And their fall since then, it's almost – you'd have a tough time thinking of other situations where a franchise has fallen.
Well, how about this? When LeBron leaves Cleveland or Miami, or the Orlando Magic.
But basketball is different, where guys will do a hard reboot after one superstar leaves. Yeah,
but it's just to think. I mean, 4 years ago, I would have been saying the 49ers, regardless of who wins this game, if Ravens win, 49ers had a much brighter future. And as much as we've complained about the Ravens' one playoff appearance the last 4 years, the Ravens have still been a competitive team. I mean, the 49ers haven't even been competitive.
Here's the thing with York. Now they spent the last 3 years coloring outside the lines. Oh, Tom Sula, Chip Kelly, now bring John Lynch. When you color outside the lines for 3 years and the results are garbage, it probably means you're not Picasso. It means that you probably have to start coloring in the lines because you don't know what the heck you're doing. Yeah. And that's where you say, well, let's go get a GM who's the assistant GM from the Packers or the assistant GM from the Chiefs and bring them in here, not keep coloring outside the lines. And that's the concern. Like, and say what about John Lynch.
I mean, they're off the page at this point. They're not just outside the line.
The Browns have a bunch of baseball nerds running the football team. Yeah. I mean, that's a different
But you at least have people who still have experience in team building, in organization building. This is a guy who, by all John Lynch, Hall of Fame, talent kind of guy.
Good human being.
Broadcaster, that's great.
Yeah.
This is like Matt Millen, who famously said at the time, Mr. Ford, thank you for this, but I'm not qualified. And he said, you'll figure it out.
And the Browns have 37,000 draft picks and about $80 million in cap space. There is some
see what they do with it.
Some logical plan there that you can say, well, this could work, and we can see what's good. Right now, we have no idea what this is. They're not in good shape with their roster. Not good. I mean, they're in good shape with their cap right now because no one's been playing for them for 2 years, and they're not in great shape with extra draft picks.
He is Mike Tanier from Bleacher Report. You can follow him at Mike Tanier, the running gun gangster. And what
in a sad, restless stage. Old Elton John song there.
Right. Yeah. I was just trying to get the words right.
Yep.
What are you doing this week? Just watching football?
Just watching football and talking football. Writing a couple of articles. Going to be at the big media night routine. We're going to do all that. And, here on Radio Row.
Trying to beat the Patriots? I mean, you really think the Falcons can win this game on Sunday?
I'm picking the Patriots, but I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be within a touchdown. I think the Falcons have a puncher's chance. And there's a part of me that, just at this point in life is tired of the Patriots. I mean, is that
really?
Okay to admit?
Huh? Yeah, I think it's okay. Yeah, I mean, and my line that I'm using on everyone this week, how are they cheating this year? What are they doing? Seriously.
I don't buy it.
We got to figure it out.
I don't buy into all that cheating stuff there. I don't go along with that kind of thing.
You think this whole thing was legitimate?
Which whole thing? The entire?
All of it. All 17 years.
It was legit.
You don't think when it comes time to really measure it that every other team in the league thinks they bug locker rooms and like all that kind of stuff?
But we talked about that stuff in the Raiders in the 70s, and it turned out there might have been a little bit of fire with the smoke, but
they were just dirty.
You legit.
That was just Lyle Alzado, right? I think.
It was as legitimate as it needs to be.
Well, they're going to play on Sunday. They got another chance to have another parade up there. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You can follow Mike out at Bleacher Report. Luke is with us as well. We're in the Bahia Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. We're here at the George R. Brown. The R stands for?
Rufus.
Every time he says Rufus, I want to say Shaka Khan. Shaka Khan.
That's right, exactly.
That's all I want to do. The George Rufus Brown Convention Center. We're almost on the roof. We're on the third floor. Here, there's a pool on the roof here, kind of like my high school at Dundalk. Nasty at WNST.net finds us. Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and our WNS TV channel, as well as Snapchat, Instagram, LinkedIn. Everywhere you are, we are. WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.